What's up, guys? Welcome back to the WRPF Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. Episode 50, the Big 5-0. Over a year of doing this podcast. The next couple of months, the next couple of episodes, we're going to be jumping into our meet director series. We're going to be interviewing different meet directors for the WRPF. A lot of them specifically for the different upcoming regional championships. We have, I believe, 3 or 4 different regionals coming up in the next couple of months. A lot of them are already going to be sold out, like the next one coming up, which is the Mid-American Regional Championships, May 18th and 19th. And that brings us to today's guests. We have Dustin Kueck and Taylor Sharp. Both of them meet directors, co-directors, working together to bring you guys the Mid-American Regional Championships. Dustin and I were chatting a little bit before we started recording about how, this year has been a big turning point, being able to do things like a regional style meet that has a lot more lifters, which gives a lot more opportunity to bring you guys cool venues, different sponsors in, more being able to bring in more judges, more just overall opportunity by having a larger scale meet as opposed to just, your 40, 50 lifter meet. We'll dive into the evolution of all that. We'll dive into what got you guys wanting to do a regional championship and what got you guys wanting to be meet directors. But let's just kind of start with finding out who you guys are. Like I said before we hit record, this is my first dual interview podcast, right? So I'll be asking kind of questions directed at both you guys. And, you guys can just kind of go one at a time. Tell us kind of your backstory. Tell us your perspective, whatever it is on whatever we talk about. So welcome, guys.
All right. You start.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed my long-winded intro. I'm really good at just rambling. I do episodes literally by myself where I just talk for like 40, 50 minutes. It's once you get me going, I can just go. So let's just start with hearing your guys' first experiences with powerlifting that got you guys exposed to powerlifting. What were you doing before, and what led you to find this thing, powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift? Taylor, go.
So I kind of got into lifting through my uncle. Actually, he does strongman stuff like that. And after high school, like after sports and stuff like that, I just was looking for something to be involved in, and I liked being strong. So I found lifting, and then honestly through Instagram, found powerlifting. I found my first coach, found my first gym, and kind of went kind of introduced to the strength world from there. But my first exposure to powerlifting, like in a competition setting, was at a push-pull for Veterans Day at East Race Muscle several years ago now, and it was really cool. Like if anybody knows about that gym, like they just have such a hype atmosphere. It was really fun to do. That was like my first exposure to being on a platform, hearing commands, getting some form of repping, and then from there went to APS, which I think was a pretty natural start for a lot of people. So really good, like intro fed, especially in Illinois. So went there, stayed there for a little bit, and then got involved with USPA, and then now I'm with WRPF. But kind of got my exposure through there. Competed a few times. Was interested in helping like organize and be involved with how meets run, and then got into reffing, and then now I'm here running a meet. So it all kind of came like naturally. Nothing was really like. It just happened to be like I was there and I said yes, and that's how I'm here now. But it's been a really fun journey. It feels very quick. It's been about 6 years now, but it feels, I don't know, like when you're enjoying it and having fun with it, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like I've been doing this for decades, but it's been fun.
So that time for you post college was about 6 years ago, 2018, which was, in my opinion, like there was social media, Instagram, big boom, and powerlifting was a lot kind of easier to find at that time. So you just kind of knowing strength through your uncle found it like that.
Yep. Yeah. And I didn't go to college, so I found it right after high school, actually. Okay. So I'm pretty young for being this involved, but yeah, I found it through there, and it's just been, it's stuck with me now.
College is for suckers anyway.
It is. It really is. No.
Dustin, hit me. You gave me a little taste of yours. I'm assuming from what you told me, you found it around that same time, probably a couple years before that. So hit me with it.
Yeah, I just looked. I was going to say 2018, but I think it was, well, I guess it was December 2017. So, yeah, well, I spent most of my adult life active duty Army. So I floated around. I've always squat, bench, deadlift, always been in the weight room. Never really had a chance to be competitive or do things like that. And when I became a recruiter, I guess I just wanted to stay active, stay fit. I realized I was breaking down. So I started doing CrossFit, which I was kind of pushed into. I thought, I heard all the stereotypes about CrossFit. Luckily, I got pushed into it. What I would say is a good gym. It was a weightlifting coach. He had some really good weightlifters, and I guess the way I describe it, my perspective was he ran a CrossFit gym to pay the bills, but he was a really good CrossFit coach. He would, take the weight off the bar. He wouldn't let you do anything you couldn't do. It wasn't competition based. But if you wanted to be a competitor, he'd probably help you be a competitor too. I did a couple competitions, I guess, just for fun. I'm definitely not a CrossFitter, clearly. And then
I interject. What do you weigh now, and what were you weighing then?
Oh, I think I was like 220 then.
Okay.
And I was benching. I could bench. I never benched, but I used to argue. So fast forward, but I'll rewind. When I did my first competition, they were like, how do you train bench? And I was like, I just bench when my CrossFit coach tells me to. And I did like 496 in my first competition. So, yeah. So he's the one. Anyways, he's the one that kind of pushed me into powerlifting because he pretty much told me that's not my sport. I wanted to go to strongman. He kind of told me because I was like, hey, it's just fat kid CrossFit. I just lift heavier stuff one time, run around. I liked running around doing stuff. I didn't think powerlifting was, active and fun. But I signed up for a meet a couple weeks out, did it, I guess, December of 2017. I benched 497. I think I squatted like 5 something, deadlifted like 560. I think it was the same weight, to be honest with you. And then, that's when I realized it can be like a sport. It can be fun. And then I started paying attention to more. There's a whole social media world. It was kind of, I guess it had been there, but growing. And like I told you before, then I think the current happened a little bit after that. And that's when I saw, nothing against the guys, but the women, like the guys were crazy that year. You had the big heavy hitters, but then the women, like you had, like I said, I saw my max, I was pushing for a 600. And then when I saw CC Holcomb deadlift 600 pounds, I was like, this is insane. Like there's women doing this and I'm trying to get to 600 pounds. Right. So, my thing is I think at that my point in my life, I was looking for something to be competitive in. And at the time that was like the meet, that was like the top of the sport. So I was like, oh, I'm going to get there. And then a couple of years later I was there, but, so I just evolved and I wanted to become involved in the sport. I was competing. I was a judge in Texas for USPA, the other federation, and then traveled around Texas, traveled everywhere doing that. And then I moved back to Illinois after I got out of the Army a couple of years ago. And there's nothing where I'm at. It's just in rural Southern Illinois. And there's some crappy local federation meets that I wasn't proud to see, kids, I saw some guys, some adults lifting to standards I didn't like. But the good thing is there's a lot of youth here that like to compete, but the coaches like to have their kids compete. And I didn't want those kids growing up, thinking that's powerlifting because I want to grow the sport. So I was like, fine, I'll just do this myself. So I guess out of a need, I was like, I'll just become a meet director. And I just think I just wanted to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way, in a way that I think is fun, that is good for spectators, good for the family. I want to see the sport grow and evolve and be fun and be something good for everybody. So yeah, that's where I'm at in the sport. And yeah, that's me.
That's me. So, I like it. I like it. If you guys can kind of think back, because for me, I first became a judge, I believe in end of 2015 or early 2016. And how I've seen it kind of change and morph from, meets that there's, hardly enough people to fill 2 flights or whatever it is. I don't know what it was like where you guys were at when you first started judging. But to the growth of what it is today, looking at like something like having a regional championships, being somewhere like Illinois, where you're at right now, from when you first moved there and you started and seeing those other meets, how has kind of the growth overall been?
It's been huge. Like, I mean, just in general in Illinois, it's really blown up. I think we definitely owe Sergio credit to that, or for that. Like, he's really kind of helped set the tone for how big powerlifting can be in Illinois. And it's been really all like I think my first meet that I was ever in was maybe like 40 lifters, something around there. And then to the point now where like most meets in Illinois have wait lists. Most of them sell out. It's even the meets downstate. Like we're working on filling those meets further downstate. Illinois is huge. It's an enormous state. And it's really cool to see, especially for just regionals. We definitely were a little bit anxious about hosting it so far south and kind of in the middle of nowhere. But we sold out pretty quick, and we have a huge number of lifters, a big wait list. So it's really cool to see going from, I think the first meet I worked in rural Illinois, I think we had like 30 lifters maybe. And it's definitely grown since then. So the growth is huge. The lifters want to be involved. And we just had to bring it a little bit closer to them, I think. So
I think that's also what's cool to see and what's different. I'm curious to see what it was like for you, Dustin, is coming from somewhere like Texas, where it's like there's meets every weekend, multiple meets every weekend. They're all doing well because that's been a state that has been solidified and powerlifting has been ingrained from a young age, right? Which is something very rare. Not other states have that. Before any of us knew what powerlifting was, so many of these people, some of these freaks, you look at the Blake LaHue, he knew about powerlifting, freaking 15 years ago. So it's like going from a state where it's so ingrained, then you go into a place where it's established in the state itself, but not everywhere. That must have been kind of a weird eye opener and something very different.
Yeah, because like I said, I was introduced to the sport in Texas, and but it grew even while I was there. So I was in the Dallas area, so I traveled throughout the state to referee, and but it still grew. I would say a lot of things that grew were the diversity, the tested, untested meets. You could have a meet every weekend. I think there are meets every weekend, some multiple meets in a city. And I'd say a lot of them fill 30 to 45, 60 lifters, and some multiple federations going on at the same time. And then I came to Illinois, and it's not, especially where I'm not throughout the state. I say outside of Chicago, you have a lot of people traveling to Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, all over the place. And then I just wanted to be more involved. I think at first I was like, I was trying to talk to, especially after I got hurt, I was like, well, I'll spend how can I give back? Well, actually, when I came back, I was like, I liked being a judge. And I was like, I guess I can't judge anymore because there's no meets. And I met Al Alvarado, and so I went up to St. Louis, and then I was like, man, I'm going to have to drive around the whole Midwest just to referee one meet, and then you go to Indiana, so Joey and Aaron's meets, and which is fine. But I met a lot of people around here that were interested in the sport, but they just weren't willing to travel 3, 4, 5 hours, especially for a sport they didn't understand. It's hard to talk to someone new to the sport, or maybe to get them. It was easy for me. I just signed up for a meet 2 weeks out and just went and tried it, but to get someone to travel up to Chicago for something they don't understand, they never seen before, that's a hard ask, so I just wanted to bring 1, 2, 3 local meets a year. If 20 people sign up for it, that's fine, whatever. And ultimately, I think, and it's grown, I think the first meet, like you said, was 30 people, and then now 30, 45, that's good here. What I'd like to get even our area more is, we still have a lot of people, we're getting more and more, but we have a lot of outsiders coming in and filling our rosters because they see a meet on the schedule. And then I get a lot of the last minute locals wanting into the meet. And I'm like, hey, I know you're not used to meets here, but when I opened registration 6 months ago, you need to start signing up. So So that's a hard lesson. They're finally learning a year later, like, hey, registration opened 6 months ago. They're used to meets never filling up. Like the day of, these other federations were still signing people up at the door, and I'm like, hey, these meets fill up, 2-3 months out. So I just kind of have to be a stern on that and just make them do that, So yeah, it's totally been different coming from Texas to rural Southern Illinois, for sure.
That's the cool thing about powerlifting in general, though, is my brain, it looks at it in such a big perspective because it's like I've been in the sport 10 years now, So when I look at the growth, I look at it over a much larger scale. You know what I mean? Like, so I see a constant trajectory, but it's hard to kind of pinpoint, this is a small amount of growth over just 5-6 months. And so it's cool to speak to people like you guys from the middle of buttfuck nowhere and hear how, like, literally in just 1 year, something can go from being, smaller, but because of, even though, yes, people don't understand, it is relatively easy to educate people on powerlifting. It is extremely easily accessible, not like something like CrossFit that is so not easily accessible unless you find your local CrossFit box, And then in the middle of nowhere, you might have to drive really far, and you're not going to find those competitions, whatever it is. You can't go to your local Globo gym and try to start doing CrossFit, or they're going to look at you like you're crazy or probably kick you out, right? And that's another reason why I saw the writing on the wall when I was working at a CrossFit gym from 2013, 2014, 2015. I'm like, man, how long is this shit going to last? I was in a CrossFit from its rise peak, where I was at the CrossFit Games, co-coaching at the CrossFit Games, to then seeing, like the steady slope down. And watching that while also being involved in powerlifting from 2014, because I didn't fucking like CrossFit, even though I was working at a CrossFit gym, and just watching that rise, it's been fucking nuts, and it's not slowing down. And it's only going to grow to the point where even in all those rural areas, everything is selling out, and then you just have to add more and more to your calendar.
Yeah, I think that as we educate people and we show them the sport, if we make the events look fun, exciting, if we get, I think with sessions, it turns it into an 8, 9, 10 hour day. There's ways to make it so that if you get the family involved, then you're more likely to be involved, because it's kind of hard to do things by yourself. Like you want to have support, So, especially if we're going to get youth or somebody involved, like a teenager or even a 20-year-old, so it's easier. It's like easier sell if you're talking about coming from 9 to 1. So if we just get more people involved in the sport, it's a mix of the individualism of powerlifting combined with, it can still be you can do this by yourself, or you can do this as a team. You can do this, I train in my garage gym a lot by myself, but I still like getting out of the house and going to a normal gym just to be, I guess, somewhat social and be around people and just get out of the house. So I think it's a good mix of just finding what people want. And a lot of people can get involved in the sport. They just need to see it, and not see it on social media. Because it's just, you get one lens on TikTok and that's it. So I
don't have a damn TikTok. I don't know what that means. So
yeah.
And it's funny what you said, like the move to sessions. It's something that it's been educating the current powerlifters, higher level untested powerlifters, anyone in general, educating them on that. But it's something that's been around for a really long time. Hell, Olympic weightlifting has sessions, and Olympic weightlifting meets are, done in an hour and a half, 2 hours. Your session is done, and then you move on. And before I started running powerlifting meets, I used to help run Olympic weightlifting events at the CrossFit gym that I was really involved in. And the implementation of sessions from a meet director standpoint, from an enjoyment standpoint, from your spectators, getting your family involved, exactly what you said. When I run my USAPL meets, all of them are always sessions, smaller sessions, whatever it may be. And it allows the entire family. Like here in Miami, everyone, it's so many young kids and they bring their freaking moms, their grandmas, their, their dad, every freaking buddy. Each head brings in 5 people, which from a business perspective is great because it helps the meet grow. It helps funds grow to help fund future meets, whatever that may be. But also it just makes it easier on having all those people involved. So, a lot of, I remember last year with the American Pro, there was a lot of pushback. Oh, sessions, because these people weren't educated or experienced on it, but didn't realize it's going to make for a better flow, a better experience for everyone else involved that doesn't want to be there all day. I think, it's all about the growth and all about the changes in the sport. And I think that's been a really good growth and change, but educator on, the monolift, whatever federation you want to call it, side of things. That's really important. Like the Ghost Clash, amateur day was sessioned, pro day wasn't sessioned because of the pushback that I had seen from people. But it's like going forward, it's like that's really the future for ease of the athletes, ease of the spectators who want to be there, ease of the family, and definitely the route that's going to be, the only route in my opinion going forward.
Right. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think I ever want to be in flight D of a meet ever again after seeing sessions. Like
that's the thing. It's like, that. Especially me, someone who's been powerlifting from those times where, man, clocks weren't ran. You know what I mean? Like even the USPA, when I was a judge for the USPA, no such thing as a fucking clock. However long the break was, There were meets. I remember one of the first meets I did, like around 2016 or something like that. That deadlifts didn't finish until like 9:30 p.m. The meet, first of all, and this was always every single meet, because I guess that the software that USPA used, they have their own patented software, and I've heard it's the worst thing ever. I never directed meet, used it, but I never attended in Florida, ever competed or coached at a meet that actually started at 9 a.m. Sometimes they'd start at 10:30, and like we'd be sitting in the warm-up room, and they're like, "Oh, we'll do rules briefing when it's time to start warming up." And we're all just like looking around, and the software, they're trying to figure out the fucking software. And man, literally there was days that we were at there 9:30, almost 10 p.m. But that's also what people were used to, and that's what people knew. The Ghost Clash this year was 4 flights, 14 or 15 lifters in each flight. It was old school, right? Because people pushed back on the flights or on the session thing. But we managed to start at 9 a.m. and finish at 5:45, which is crazy. That's unheard of for an actual full meet. Back in the day, that would have ran until 9 or 10 p.m. But it was refreshing. It was interesting and refreshing hearing the different feedback. People are like, wait, why is there 4 flights? Wait, why are there 15 people on a flight? Well, that's the way powerlifting used to be. And a bunch of people were being divas last year. So it's like, okay, good. Now from this feedback, we know that this is the future and this is what people want to see, what need to see. And if it's difficult for you, if you're a super heavyweight and you weigh 350 pounds and it's hard for you to understand that you have to start warming up for bench right after, you just got to adapt and evolve.
Yeah, I guess being a meet director now, I get to look at things different perspectives. As an athlete, it depends on how you train for. So if you announce it well in advance, then do some more conditioning, lower your rest periods, be ready for it. You should be able to be ready for that. Just train for it. It would suck to just be announced, last day, hey, by the way, we're doing sessions and there's 2 10 lifter flights and good luck, especially if you have specific goals in mind and, you're trying to hit like a world record or something. And that's probably but the competitiveness would be there, so like, what is the goal of the meet? Is this a meet that you're trying to hit a world record in, or is this something you're trying to win a championship? Or these are, I think it's just a lot of different factors in between sessions or flights. And it's just, maybe when you're picking a meet, that might be something that you're just looking for something that maybe you want one or the other, So I don't think there's one right answer to how it's done, but I do think, like I said, it does make it a lot spectator friendly to do it with the sessions for sure. I would like to see even with this regionals, we were just talking to Taylor before this call, like these sessions are way bigger than I want them to be. Like 30, 35 lifters. In a local meet, I would like 12 lifter, flights, 2 sessions, like 48 lifter caps. But the goal of regionals, in my opinion, is to get people to nationals. So we want to fit as many people into regionals as we can. In a two, we decided not to do a 3-day window, but we wanted to fit as many lifters as we can in an organized way. So we wanted to split it up into sessions so we don't have 100 and whatever people per day, and flight D just waiting around all day long, like taking naps. So they're still there, like 4 or 5 hours, they're out of there. And then we have another, it's really, so staffing has been really fun to schedule and get enough people. And it's really brutal on us to schedule for that, so I hope people, I mean, if you don't, you don't, that's fine. You don't have to worry about it. You're an athlete, but it is brutal on the staff and the judges and the spotters and loaders. And we're basically, we want to have 2 crews. If we need 10 spotters and loaders, and we're looking for 20. We need 10 judges. We're looking for 20. We want to give people breaks. We want to have, we don't want our spotters and loaders dying down on you just because you're in the last session. Like, you don't deserve that. You should have the same tempo as everyone else. So that's what we're trying to bring to everybody.
Yeah, I think with like sessions are, I have all kinds of feelings about sessions, but with a big meet like regionals where we have an important standard to uphold, because a lot of these lifters have not been to a higher, this is the first time. I think this year will be the 3rd or 4th nationals that the WRPF has ever done. We've never done regionals before. Like, all of these things are brand new. And you can see it pretty often when like a lifter has only had experience at a local level meet, and then they go to a higher level meet and their standards are totally off, and then they have a bad time because they're not used to it. With sessions, and like Dustin said, with staffing, like the only way to sustainably have sessions, I think, is to have a huge staff so that you can keep everybody from burning out. If we have the same refs rotating all day long, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., they're going to be burnt out. It's quality and standard don't get to stay the same. Like, we're all human. If you're sitting in a chair all day and you're tired and you've been there, you set up last night, you had 1 banana and a monster, like, you're not going to be your best at 7 p.m. after you've seen 80 other squats. Like, it's going to be same with spotters, same with we're all human, we all get tired, so we have to take that human factor into consideration, which is why we have, I think, almost 30 spotters coming to regionals. We have about maybe 22, 23 reps coming, just so we can keep everybody fresh. Dustin and I have talked a lot about having like 2 different crews for each session. One crew AM session, AM crew, PM crew, like kind of splitting it up that way, just to keep everybody fresh and keep everybody moving. Burnout is real, especially for refs, and especially at a higher level. You're expected to, I've refed at higher level meets, and it is a lot more pressure when you know that like people are definitely watching to make sure that you're staying consistent at that level. So if you know that you're going to have a 30-minute break in the day or something like that, like it's a little bit easier to keep going and to keep that standard high. And it keeps everybody a little bit fresher and a little, I don't know. We've all, like, I guess not all of us, but Dustin and I definitely have worked really long meets where we've been like pretty beat up by the end of the day. So I'm excited that because of sessions and because of implementing that, we're able to provide a little bit of a better day for the staff as well as the lifters and the spectators. And I think that's really the future of the sport. There's no way we can keep pushing forward and keep like elevating things and inviting more and more people into the sport if we don't take care of the staff that are responsible for all of it. So I think sessions in that way help us as well. It's expensive. It's really expensive to have out. We have refs coming from, I think, 6 different states. Some are flying, some are driving. Especially at this level, if you need higher level refs, so we need mostly level 2 refs. And Illinois, I think we have not that many, so we've had to really outsource. And again, it just keeps everybody kind of on their toes and keeps us fresh. So I think, again, like moving forward into higher level meets in the future too, like if we can keep that standard of taking care of the staff with sessions, I think we have a good, I think that we have a good promising outlook, I guess. I'm rambling. I'm yapping. I don't know.
No, I love rambling, and everything you're saying I think is super good and insightful and very different from what the listeners usually hear and know about this podcast, because usually they're listening to the athletes and hearing about their history, whatever it is. And it goes back to, being a meet director. People just think it means you show up on this day, you put this platform together, and the meet happens, and then you put a medal around someone's neck. But like what I was telling Dustin before we even started recording is, Ghost Clash is 3 weeks past, 4 weeks past, whatever it is now. And I'm glad to have it behind me, because that last stress leading up to it is freaking you pull your hair out. But it's literally now planning immediately for the Ghost Clash 4. Literally in about 4 or 5 weeks, the date will probably already be announced. In about 7 or 8 weeks, the registration will already open. And it's crazy thing, it literally just finished. But beyond all the planning, the logistics that have to go into it, people think, oh, meet director, they're making all this money. It is a business, but there, just like any business, just like owning a gym, right? There are so many expenses that go into it, and making sure you're utilizing the money and the expenses correctly to make the event successful so that it can continue, to give people good experiences so they'll want to come back, not just the athletes, but the people who are helping and support you and working, right? People say, oh, you volunteer to meet. Judges aren't, they shouldn't volunteer. They should receive some kind of financial compensation, right? Are they being financially compensated, at $25 an hour? No, because if you paid a judge $25, $30 an hour, the meet would lose thousands and thousands of dollars for all the staffing that you actually need to make an event like that happen, right? So judges are given money. Judges are paid as they should be, but it's an expensive thing running a meet. It is a stressful thing running a meet. There's so many logistics and so much BS that goes into it, but God damn, it's rewarding, right? How it feels to see how you could help progress this sport and do something that has meaning, right? People hate their desk jobs, or they're just sitting there punching numbers, this, that, and the other, a robot behind the scenes. But in my opinion, someone who's been doing it so long, being a meet director and getting to see all that hard work and all that effort and everything come into fruition, and to be able to see, like I said, someone who's been doing this for 10 years, watching how things have just been like this, and knowing that your efforts and your contributions are what's keeping it on this scale. And then even on a smaller level, looking at a small area like, Southern Illinois, watching, this trend like that, it is such a great feeling. And so many people don't know and don't understand, all the bits and pieces that go into it. Running a meet inside of a gym, a 1 day, 30, 40 person meet, is still work. It's still hard. There's still finances. There's still things that go into it. But then when you get into that larger scale, whether you're running a pro level meet, a national meet, or a regional level meet, welcome to the party, guys. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's exciting to see with you guys being meet directors, having done it before, but having this being your first large scale level like that, how you guys already have all those ins and outs ironed out, figured out. And I think that's also comes down to powerlifting has grown so much, and having large support systems is huge and cool. When I fucking first ran a pro level meet 6 or 7 years ago, I didn't have any support systems, anyone I could talk to, anyone I could lean on. And it just attests for what the WRPF has become. And it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a village. It really does. Like, Dustin and I work really well together, and I wouldn't want to be doing this with anybody else, honestly. Like, we work well together. I joke around often that we share the same two brain cells, but we kind of do. We get along, we communicate really well, and we have the same insanely high level of expectation in terms of like standard of what we expect both of ourselves, of our events, and of the people that we bring to our events in terms of staff and stuff like that too. So when they approached us with this, we were kind of just like, okay, yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, like we can do that. But then like as we started talking about it, we're like, well, like, I think we can do this. And you know, this is the first time I guess that I've technically co-directed with Dustin, but I've helped him with his other meets. And I even, you know, while we're setting up for a meet, he and I will both be kind of like shooting ideas back and forth of next time we should do this, next time we should do that. Like we're immediately before we even have the event thinking about what we're going to do in the future. And I think that is what makes events great. It's just constantly looking for things that can improve and like, hey, I like this, but let's try this next time. This works, and like this is fine for this time, but like, we should try this next time. And especially with a newer event like regionals for us, this is the first year and the first time that we're doing it and the first time it's happening in the Midwest. I think there are already a lot of things that we've learned, and we're going to continue to learn. And I think I lost my train of thought. Dang it. I think that I don't know. I think the people that we have on our team and all of that, like it makes it all easier. We can't it is not easy work. It's really hard work. We've been, you know, having a phone call a week almost since October. We talk all the time anyways. We're constantly working on this. It's not like you said, we're not just showing up the day of and figuring things out. Like we have been hammering details for months at this point. And that's what it takes for good meets to happen. And that's what is, in my opinion, what makes good meet directors is genuinely just caring about what you're doing and putting in work to even like the smallest details. I want to give a shout out to Dustin's wife, Melissa, because she's a huge part of what makes Barbell 618 meets really great. And I think what's special about her is that she's been spectating for years. You know, she's been going to Dustin's meets and sitting there for hours, bored out of her mind. So she offers us a different perspective in terms of like what the spectators are feeling. Because of course, like lifters are top priority, right? Like we want them to have an amazing experience, and that's number one. But then we also are expecting these, you know, grandma and grandpa to come pay $20 at the door to come watch a bunch of people they don't know do something they don't care about really, and that they're scared of watching. Additionally, and like you're expecting them to sit there all day, and I haven't spectated that much at meets, like purely just spectated. You know, if I go to meets, I'm either helping or I'm, you know, handling or competing myself. So having her and her perspective and her just overall greatness I think gives us a different perspective as meet directors, and I'm grateful for that. It takes so much more than even I thought when I first started. And then even you get to it, you think you've handled everything, and then you still have things that pop up, and that's just kind of part of the game. But meet directing is a whole other beast in powerlifting. But we need more people to want to be on that side of it too. It is, I don't know, Dustin, what do you think? I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah, I really just, I just have a bunch of good ideas. I think they're good ideas, and I just like to surround myself with people that I'm like, hey, how do we make this work? So Taylor's been really amazing in that. My wife, obviously, everyone that we invite to run the meets with us, every judge. Veronica's coming to help run the most of our weigh-ins and drug testing, and my wife, even we're checking out the venue, and I'm asking her about there's a concession stand, and she's giving the guy a list of what to, you know, as with a lot of venues like that, you know, like you can't bring in outside food or drinks. So, you know, having been an athlete, bringing that perspective side of it, you know, some meet directors out there haven't lifted it, no offense, in a long time. And I've been told you can't bring in food or drinks, and then I go up to buy food and they have pretzels and pizzas and burgers, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Like, what's going on, guys? So, you know, to a couple of venues that we were looking at for this event, I was like, that's good. So what are you guys going to serve? Because, you know, if you load up Uncrustables and Rice Krispie treats and stuff like, you can sell those for $10 a pop. Like you'll make your money. But if you think you're going to sell, you know, pizzas, and it just depends on the food, you know. So,
yeah.
So like there was a there was a local place here that was, you know, that was, besides the price, and some other stuff, that was one of the reasons we didn't go with them, because I didn't think we were going to be able to meet the daily food thing. Because I'm like, no, everybody's going to be sneaking in food, which I would too, and I'm not going to be able to, you know, again, it's a business, right? So I'm not going to ask my athletes not to bring in their food, you know. So there's just a lot that goes into it. Yeah, and then so you know, we have people that I just like to surround myself with great people and ask questions. And you know, we're looking at chairs, where we're gonna, how are we gonna set up the chairs, how, you know, just all kinds of stuff that goes into being a meet director and a judge. And nobody knows everything. If you think you do, then you know this with the Ghost Clash and all the other events you do. So
Yeah, you guys, everything you're saying, it reminds me a lot of myself. And it's like the devil's in the details. You got to get down to that nitty gritty. And I think that's really what will separate an event from a fantastic event, you know?
right.
And there's a lot of people who can still run events who don't pay attention to all those small little things. But those things make the world of a difference, and they add up and they add to the experience and add to how people feel after the fact. And that's why, like, my venue for the Ghost Clash, it's expensive as hell. Everything in Miami is expensive as hell, but it's expensive as hell. But it is so damn special. That was one of the number one things. Sat down, looked at the menu, you know, looked at the food, look at the food spend, all that stuff. Those are super, super important things to look at, to figure out, that all go on behind the scenes that you guys as listeners don't really know about. So it was cool to be able to educate and have people hear about. Let's dive into the actual event itself. Let's dive into what's in front of the screen, right? So how was it presented? What was the plan? You guys said it you know, it sold out quickly. So kind of take me through that.
So the event is, as you go ahead, Dustin.
No, you're good. You start.
So we have Mid-America WRPF Regionals in Benton, Illinois, at the Benton Civic Center. It's like a community theater, right, Dustin? And it's a really cool venue. I'm really excited to be there. There's so many bathrooms. There are
there's a lot of
so many bathrooms. I don't even know how many. There's a lot of bathrooms. Which, if anybody's been to a powerlifting meet, you know that is a very important thing.
I'm told they all flush. So
yeah, they all flush. We will have special toilet paper for the staff bathrooms, because apparently those are. Anyways, so we have that happening. I think we have close to 150 lifters.
40 people will drop out, but 140 something.
Yeah, and it's been Garrett and Albert brought this to us maybe like September, October. And it kind of just started as like an idea. And would you be interested? And then it kind of grew from there. I lost my train of thought again. Dustin, talk. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so we were approached by the WRPF. I don't even know. I don't think we'd even. So they knew Taylor was involved in this too. I was planning my first meet down here in Illinois, and I was asked, "Do you want to run, you know, Mid-American Regionals?" And I was like, "What is that?" And do you know, I'd never even ran a meet before. I think that was my response. And they were like, "Yeah, but you're gonna do great." And we're starting this structured. They kind of told me the structures, you know, local meets, regional meets, qualify for nationals at regional meets, make it to nationals, develop a structure. And that's, like I said, I got into the sport because I wanted something competitive, and that's kind of what I've been looking for my entire existence in the sport. And I was like, great, you're going to do something like this. I want to be a part of it, and I want to do it. Yes, but I'm not going to run it in Chicago. I'll tell you that, because I'm in Southern Illinois, and there's nothing against Chicago. I just think that it could be ran somewhere else. So we did look at venues in Chicago, because I'm not totally against it. But Benton, Illinois is, you know, about 3 hours from Indianapolis, St. Louis, Kentucky. It's about in Chicago. So it's kind of in the middle of everywhere we want to be. The venue is great. So it's driving distance everywhere. There's, you know, places for people to stay. And what was your questions about the meet itself? That was
So
kind of the
take me through the registration releases. It
oh
sells.
yeah.
What's the format looking like?
Yeah, and then we didn't really the scaling of the meet. We that was kind of, do you want to run the meet? We're like, yeah. And then there was a lot of questions about how many regionals we're going to go on. Whether there's going to be a couple of them, or there's going to be 10 of them. So first we're like, I found the venue, and I was like, I could probably do 2 platforms, 3 days. You know, they kind of scaled down to we're going to do 2 platforms, or 2 days, and then I was like, I could do. I didn't need to do that. We didn't need to do that, just based on the amount
Yeah,
of regionals.
They initially wanted over 200 lifters,
Because
which
yeah,
is great for future ideas.
right.
Yeah.
Just based on the amount of national slots, we didn't need to do that, right? So, so we ended up doing. We want to increase the experience for everyone. Staffing is always an issue. We don't want to water anything down, so we did 2 days, 1 platform, and then we have like over 70 people on the wait list. And as with all meets like this, you passive aggressively ask and ask and ask. If you're not going to do this meet, please let me know. But no one ever lets you know until the day of. So if you're on that wait list and 30 people back out the day of, I apologize. I hope you do a local meet and do really great and get to go to the nationals. But I tried, really tried, because that was really our goal. It's like, if you want to do this meet, you want to go to nationals, we want you to be able to do this meet. That's why we're even looking at doing 3 days, 2 platforms. How can we make this fit? What we also didn't know is it's kind of a weird structure. Like, so we opened registration. I will say, to go back to that question, it kind of started off slow because we didn't really get announced. And it just slowed. I don't know. I can't remember when, but it just picked up and then just like filled up. Like, I'd say for the first month, maybe 2 months, it was like 30, 60 lifters. And then we just went up to like, literally, I just messaged her and I was like, hey, are we doing 2 platforms in one? Because we need to decide. Because if we're doing one, it's full like right now. And we just stopped it, which irritated a lot of people. Because we still hadn't fully decided on that. But based on the way registrations were going, we didn't need to decide that at that time. And then, I don't know, somebody shared it or something. I don't know what happened, but it just like filled up within a few days. I think that put us like 130 or 150 lifters, and then we called it there. And I started the wait list, and like I said, that's at like 70 people now. So,
It's amazing, man. It's amazing to see, again, like you said, taking the risk, going into a smaller area, taking the risk on something that's brand new, something like this, regionals, and to see that level of response and to see that, it's super exciting to hear and to see, knowing that it's just the first year and the possibilities of how it can continue to grow, and that how you guys took that on and were able to run with it. I'm really excited to see how the event goes. I'm excited to see how it sets up for nationals. It's like you guys said at the beginning, there's only been a couple years of nationals, and I think this year is going to be a massive amount of growth on it. And seeing all the people that are able to qualify in your meet, again, it adds to that fulfillment, it adds to that excitement, and thank you guys for taking it on. Thank you guys for taking it on and attacking it. Like I said, so many of the things you guys said remind me so much of myself. And it's those little attention to details are what are going to separate an event from a great event. And I think it's going to be a fantastic, fantastic event, and go super smooth. Hell yeah.
Yeah, we hope so.
Thank you. I think what's exciting about our events and nationals is like the nationals is in St. Louis this year. Dustin and Al and I and like several others of us have worked a really big meet at that same venue. And then we have a lot of the same crew, I assume, that it will be from our regionals working nationals. So I think it puts us at a really interesting perspective in terms of like, I think it's going to set us up for success and set Al, the meet director for nationals, up for success, because we're getting like a little bit of a test run with our Midwest crew for that large of an event at our event, and it's going to set us up for success moving into nationals and later on this year. So that's really exciting. And then one thing I've learned the hard way really quick, being a recovering people pleaser when it comes to meet directing, No matter what you do, whatever decision you make, some people are going to be happy. You're going to have your email full of, a handful of other people that are mad about every other
Always.
perspective that they think you didn't think of, like, but we did think of. And it's part of leadership in general, and part of running anything with money or ego involved. Like, you have to just make decisions that are going to be the least offensive to everybody else. And like, that's sometimes what the decision is. It's not like our favorite answer. It's not our favorite decision. And we've had several conversations, even just going into this meet and other meets, of like, we're making decisions that we think are going to serve the largest population the best. But in that, we can't make every single person super duper happy. Like, it's just kind of part of it. And that's been a really kind of a tough lesson for me personally.
Yeah, it's an eye-opening thing. It's a learning curve. It's eye-opening. And then you got to learn to roll with the punches and not let those things affect you,
Totally.
But so Northeast, Mid-American Regionals sold out. So if you guys are listening to this, you can't get in. There's a long wait list. Be on the lookout for 2025. Check out Barbell 618. You guys have other events coming up later this year?
Probably November. We're gonna have a local one down here in Anna, Illinois.
Awesome. So if you want to go middle of nowhere, Illinois, help grow middle of nowhere, Illinois. If you're from middle of nowhere, Illinois, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for hopping on. I appreciate your time. Good luck in 2.5 weeks. And thank you everyone for listening to the WRPF podcast.
All right.